welcome to the stage Dr. Joshua Plant.
How's everybody doing? I flew in last night, and I need to make sure we give adequate recognition to Darren, who has been on the road for 3 weeks, right? Month now. I was with him for the first 2 weeks, and he's like, hey, I'm going to just continue where you're in China. Me, Mark, and Darren, and Vivian. And Darren's like, I don't want to fly home and then fly. I'm going to just keep going. And I can tell you right now, I would not have made it as a Navy SEAL, because I was like, every man for himself. See you in Hawaii. I'm going home for a week. So he did it himself in Japan over there. And so it's an incredible opportunity to work side by side with individuals that are so passionate about what they do. Voluntarily giving up so much of their time, the 3 a.m. texts that John gave me, and those types of things. I love that passion, but it doesn't just stop with our ownership, that it resonates throughout the executive team, but most importantly, I feel with you guys, and the passion that you guys all have, especially when a product like this touched your hands. And so I want to give a little bit of an education, and then we do have 30 minutes of Q&A. I believe that I'm much more of a Socratic believer in the Socratic method of teaching, questions, dialogue, because again, this is a peer-to-peer business. And so you help you to craft your own story, to do that so that you can go out and share that story is a big part of this. So today I want to give a little bit of a scientific understanding of this, but 30 minutes of crime and punishment will follow afterwards. So we'll do that at the end of the session this morning. So let's talk a little bit about why this product is so important, right? It's in the United States culture, for example, it's not something we necessarily want to advertise. We do our best to kind of allude that we never have to go to the bathroom, right? I drive my 13-year-old daughter to school, and there's been a few times where we're driving there that she says, Dad, turn around, I have to go to the bathroom. And I'll be like, well, don't they have bathrooms at your school? And she's like, no, I can't do it at the school. And I was like, dude, do you want people to think you don't poo? She's like, just don't. Just drive me home. She'd rather be late, right? So it's a very type of secretive environment, but yet it is, as Dr. Strand says, and is well published, it is the #1 complaint that we all face, that we're just not talking about it. It's the awkward mother-in-law. We all know we have the problem, but we're just not allowed to talk about it, right? And so the challenge that we have is, how do we bring this to the forefront and make it, lack of a better word, appealing, to help people understand that this is a big issue. So when we talk about the power of our gut, a lot of us understand that a gut is a very important thing, right? It's this tube that forms through our body. One end here, one end there. Interestingly, as the embryo forms, here's a little question for you guys. What forms first, the mouth or the anus? That's right, it's the anus. Some animals, it's the mouth. We're lucky enough to where it's our butt forms first. So, but in this, as we develop, that tube just keeps going. And so we're more like an elongated straw, where we have a tube that goes through us, and then we have the outside, right? And so all of our muscles and bones constitute that actual straw. But we really just have a tube that goes through us and zigzags every which way. Now, just as much as we have sensories, our eyes, our ears, our sense of smell, that help us navigate the external world, that all live on the outside of that straw, we also have similar sensors inside the straw. It is another very important data point that our body uses. So, who gets nervous when they go on stage? Anybody? Oh, this is the wrong crowd to ask that. Who knows somebody who gets nervous when they go on stage, right? what's the thing that usually happens when you get nervous? Where do you feel it? You feel it here. All of a sudden it grumbles. My wife, when she gets nervous, she makes a beeline for the restroom. I don't know why she doesn't come to these things, right? But in that situation, right, it is very much a powerful sensor to the world in which we live in. And we are facing a very challenging crisis that unfortunately many of us aren't talking about. And so we simply aren't going to the bathroom nearly enough. And there's several reasons why. One, we're not having enough adequate water intake or electrolyte intake, right? If you guys remember, electrolytes is how our body moves water from one area to the other. So if we're wanting to move water into our colon to make what is dry, compact dirt into something that's a little bit more fluid and mud-like that can remove itself, we need to move the water into our colon. And so we need to make sure we have electrolytes. A beautiful product we launched not too long ago, Max 2O, to help with that. But in addition to that, we also have to implore what's called peristalsis. That's a very complicated word. I don't want any of you to ever mention that word again. But what that is the movement by which our intestines move stuff through. Have you ever thought, how does something start here and over the course of about 12 feet end up in the toilet? Like gravity doesn't allow that. It actually has to come back up for a little bit. But perhaps what it is your intestines actually have this uniformed squeezing. And so what happens is, in some situations, if that is not stimulated or out of sync, you could imagine if I'm trying to move something, but that happens before this one, the food all of a sudden gets kind of stuck. And that can last for several days. That's for people when you all of a sudden, we've all experienced this, where you're on a road trip and you have to go to the bathroom really bad. And you're like, and you just hold it, and then all of a sudden you don't have to hold it anymore, and you're like, oh, it went away. What happened is your peristalsis just went, let's send that back up the stream. And you've just created a wonderful roadblock that's going to haunt you the rest of that road trip. Yeah. Okay, we've all had those moments, right? And so that movement is stimulated or encouraged through fiber. Fiber is content. And we are consuming only about 20% of the fiber we should. A lot of times we talk about the importance of getting vitamins and minerals, and these things are very important. Vitamins and minerals are. But we seem to overlook fiber, when that is very much correlated with everything from heart disease to lack of certain types of very detrimental diseases that are a growing epidemic, especially in individuals that are 30 to 50 years old. And we need to increase the amount of that fiber to create that fluid movement of those intestines to make sure that the pathway from our mouth to the toilet is as seamless as possible. Now, in addition to this, as we talk about these movements of that 5 days as giving us that fiber to allow that stimulation to occur, we also have the two. Now, these two cause a very strong physiological experience. During those 5 days, you might have a certain physiological experience, such as a little bit of gas. Anyone have that? Who's tried it? Yeah. Everyone's saying, my spouse. Yeah. It's like everyone has a tough mother-in-law. Ironically, we all have mother-in-laws, and that's somebody else's mom, but we also have partners that love to pass gas, but we never do, right? Now, in that situation, what that is during those 5 days, and I'm going to speak a little bit on this, the gas is not a bad thing. It's actually a very good thing. This is what I'm hoping. I wish I had a whiteboard. I hate making slides, but I like to draw in front of you guys. But in this situation, fiber not only helps initiate that peristaltic movement, fiber is also what the gut bacteria eat. So right now, in this world where we're talking about processed foods being so damaging to our health, why are processed foods so bad? There's no fiber. They actually have more vitamins and minerals than normal food that's added in. So what makes them so bad? It's because they remove the fiber. Remember, fiber is what bacteria eat. We don't digest it, bacteria do. And so if I'm wanting to make sure my bread doesn't go rotten, I remove the fiber out of my bread, And then it's no wonder why they call it Wonder Bread, because it never spoils. Okay? And that is by design, because now I don't have to worry about replenishing my inventory. And so in this world of where food just sits on shelves for months on end, it is because that fiber has been simply removed, which is why we're eating only about 10 to 20% of what we should have. Now, in that scenario, not only have we not created that peristaltic movement to be happening, we are now starving the very bacteria that is important for our health in a variety of different ways. Those bacteria are our immune system. About 70% of our immune system lives in our gut, right? So if we have a very robust, healthy biome of bacteria in our gut, think of it like a well-groomed lawn, really dense. It's hard for a weed to take root. But if our lawn is scarce, with lots of dead spots, it's much easier for a weed to take root. And so, by us starving our lawn, our metaphorical gut biome, by not giving it fiber, there's lots of dead spots. And it's easy for bad bacteria to take root and grow. So that's the first problem. The next is that it's also very much involved in the production of serotonin, the very thing that turns the frown upside down. It obviously happens in the brain, but it is also stimulated in large part through our gut. Now, which is kind of weird, but you think about it, how often are we and our guts tied together based upon the way we think? Remember when I started off, we get nervous, your gut is what tells you. Very much connected. Our emotional health and our guts, very, very much connected. And so we want to nourish those bacteria with the fiber. Now, fiber would be, this type of fiber is considered a P-R-E biotic, not a probiotic. A probiotic is the actual bacteria. I'm putting 1 billion bacteria in my gut that are good, which is great. Think of that like planting seeds in your garden. The prebiotic is like the dirt or the fertilizer. It's important to have both. I can have a well-nourished lawn with great fertilizer, great soil, but if I don't plant grass seeds, it won't grow. Likewise, if I have horrible soil and no fertilizer and I'm putting seeds in every day, i.e. taking probiotics, it won't grow a lot. It's important to have both. And so this is a great prebiotic to help that we have through that time. Now, talking again, why gas? That was the initial question. Well, because most of our bacteria are very starved, give me a time, are very starved. Once you all of a sudden give them the food that they need to grow, they grow quickly. It actually only takes about 20 minutes for a bacteria to divide, right? So if all of a sudden, all of this food comes rushing in, the bacteria population will go from, let's say, 1 billion to 2 billion. Another 20 minutes, it goes from 2 billion to 4 billion. They are very sensitive to that food once it comes in. So about 20 minutes. Now, here's what's interesting. As it goes from 1 billion to 2 billion, through mitosis, the byproduct of those bacteria dividing is methane gas, or in some cases, a sulfur, for those that have rotten egg-smelling farts. Okay? It's all these different types of bacteria. Honestly, it's actually a cool area of science where they actually take the types of gas that you were farting to, then characterize what your biome is. It's exceptionally accurate. So if you think you have a bad job, that poor grad student going around with a jar collecting farts all day. So in that situation, that byproduct, that methane gas, shows that those bacteria were starved, and all of a sudden now, you put a little fertilizer on that lawn, and they're growing. And so when somebody's like, ooh, it made me a little gassy, unfortunately, we've conditioned ourselves that that's a bad thing. No, that is a good thing. That is a sign that your body was needing it, that it was starving. It's the equivalent of when you go to the gym. If I haven't gone to the gym in 10 years, and I go to the gym and I do the bench press, and the next morning I'm like, I'm so sore. the last thing the trainer would do is say, well, we better stop. Well, that didn't work. No, that's a sign that it worked, right? That's how most things as we progress in our health are, is it's usually a little bit of a sign of discomfort till you get to where you need to be. Now, as that bacteria, as that lawn gets to the density that our body inherently wants it to, as we apply that fertilizer on a regular basis, is it going to get any thicker? No. So are those bacteria dividing anymore? No. And so it can take anywhere up to a couple, 3, 4 weeks to get those bacteria to that level. But just as you've gone to the gym for a month or 2 months, and you do the bench press, you may not be sore the next morning. You have reached that level of consistency. And that same is true. And that is that 5 days. It is providing all of that to your digestive system, to that canal that was created in the first few days of life, right? Now, in addition to this, we also have the 2. As I talked about before, electrolytes are used to move water throughout our body, right? I put the electrolytes, my body puts the electrolytes where it wants the water to eventually go. So I want to get those electrolytes into my cells. What happens is the water follows, all right? So our Max2O helps get those electrolytes inside our cells, which then when we drink water, we absorb that water into our cells. Now, in the 2, what it is it's actually utilizing senosides, which will take those electrolytes and they move it to the colon, where it's saying, okay, water, come to the colon. Now, this creates an experience that can't be denied, right? A little gas, it's easy to blame the dog. Hard to blame the dog on the day 6 and 7. That's a well-trained dog if it's leaving that mess in the toilet, right? That is very much to where now what we've done is we've actually moved the water in to create that strong peristaltic movement, but also to kind of soften the stool to allow for a very good transition. Now this is important because our body has its detox system built in, right? We've been going to the bathroom since day 1. I was holding Mateus earlier today, and I kind of felt that he was starting a little detox experience when I was holding Mateus, right? This happens early in life, that detox experience. Our liver, our kidneys, they're all designed to help pull those toxins out to do it. But the problem is if the highway, that main canal that connects the 2 is blocked, it's hard to allow any traffic to move anywhere in the body. So if I have a toxin in some particular cell in my body, what happens is that toxin is then removed into the bloodstream. That bloodstream then goes through the liver, kidneys, and so forth. That is then pulled out. It is then moved into the digestive system, specifically into the colon area, to allow for it to be excreted. But if that area is backed up, I'm not able to then add to it, and so forth. My whole detox experience is slowed down. So that is very important. If we want traffic to move well on the back streets, it's also important that we make sure the traffic moves well on the highways. And that 2 is designed for that, those 2 days, the Core Cleanse Plus. So this is a very powerful product that really gets to the foundation. The very first thing that forms in our body before even our hearts is the tube, because it is so critical and is so vital to our health and is a powerful connector to our environment. And so if we can get our gut health in alignment, so many things fall into place. Now, I want to speak in connection with this with the drops. I'm going to do that because they only gave me 15 minutes, which I'm already over. No, 1 minute. I want to talk about why this is so important to accompany the drops. I'm going to spend a good portion of that Q&A time on that. Because in this scenario, if we just give individuals, hey, here's your gut health, but we're not helping to connect them to the power of the drops and what it does to help us balance our stress. Remember again, right? What happens when we get a little nervous? Where do we feel it? If all of a sudden it's a long road trip and when you go camping, you don't poop, right? You ever notice that? How your body just kind of shuts down when you go camping? It's not like you flipped a switch, it just does it. It's that different environment, how sensitive it is. And so it's important when we are looking at the gut that we don't ignore the nervous system, which is very much connected with the drops. The drops are one of the best products that we have in today's ever stressful world of helping us better respond to stress. That is the root of a lot of the challenges we face, not only in our digestive system, but in many of our other body systems. And so if we're looking at helping individuals improve their health and wellness, we don't want to apply a Band-Aid well down the line of where their problems begin. It is important that we get to the root cause. And for many of us, it's not only just a lack of fiber, it's also an abundance of stress in this environment that we live in. And so providing a holistic solution to our customers is one of the most ethical things we can do. Rather than just providing, hey, let's get a good result in the near term, let's look at really improving their health and wellness over the long term, which encompasses very much the drops of helping them better respond to stress. I'll get more detail into that in the 30 minutes afterwards. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Joshua